The world is watching the clock. At 2:17 a.m. Eastern Time, President Donald J. Trump authorized a massive escalation in the U.S.-Israel military campaign against Iran, ordering precision strikes on the strategic Kharg Island oil terminal. The operation, conducted in coordination with Israeli forces, represents a direct attempt to cripple the Islamic Republic's economic lifeline and marks the most aggressive U.S. military action in the region in decades. Let me show you the evidence. According to initial reports from the Pentagon and confirmed by U.S. Central Command, waves of U.S. Air Force B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, supported by Israeli F-35 Ayadir fighters, launched a coordinated assault on Kharg Island's loading facilities and storage tanks. Satellite imagery analyzed by Reuters shows multiple fires raging at the site, which handles over 90% of Iran's crude oil exports. This is a decisive blow to the regime's funding of terror, a senior White House official, speaking on condition of anonymity, told Fox News. President Trump is finally doing what past administrations only talked about. The casualty reports are mounting, and they tell a grim story. Iranian state media, citing the country's Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, claims at least 47 military personnel and oil workers were killed in the treacherous attack. However, U.S. intelligence sources speaking to CNN put the number higher, suggesting the strike on the heavily fortified facility may have resulted in over 100 casualties. The Kharg Island facility is not just an economic target, it's a hardened military asset, said Jonathan Panikoff, a former U.S. Deputy National Intelligence Officer. The IRGC uses it for logistics and smuggling. The human cost of taking it out was always going to be significant. Now, here's what the mainstream media isn't covering with the right POV. While headlines focus on the escalation, they're gaslighting the public about the strategic necessity. President Trump, in a statement from the White House Situation Room, framed the action as a preemptive defense. For years, the Iranian regime has used its oil wealth to bankroll Hamas, Hezbollah, and militias that kill Americans. My predecessors appeased them. I am cutting off the money, the president stated. This isn't a reckless move, it's a targeted financial decapitation. A source with direct knowledge of the operation told the New York Times that the strike was based on actionable intelligence, that Iran was preparing to use Kharg Island revenues to fund a major missile offensive against U.S. assets in Iraq. The global reaction has been the typical Karen chorus. European leaders in Berlin, Paris, and London issued a joint statement expressing profound concern and calling for an immediate de-escalation. Meanwhile, oil prices spiked past $115 a barrel in early trading, a 65% increase since the opening of hostilities 10 days ago. But let's be real, this hand-wringing is what enabled Iran for decades. The Trump administration's view, as articulated by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in a briefing, is that the time for empty statements is over. The world is safer when America leads with strength, not apologies. Real talk, this is a gamble of historic proportions. The Kharg Island strike crosses a Rubicon that even the most hawkish advisors to previous administrations hesitated to approach. It directly threatens the core pillar of the regime's survival. Military analysts are stunned by the operational audacity. This isn't a pinprick strike, said General David Petraeus, RET, in an interview with Sky News. This is a campaign designed to impose catastrophic economic costs from the air. The question is whether the Iranian response will be contained to the region or go global. The stage is now set for the next, potentially more dangerous, chapter. Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei has vowed response that will resound through history, according to a speech broadcast on state television. U.S. intelligence is monitoring signals that suggest preparations by IRGC naval forces and proxy groups across the Middle East. The USS Gerald R. Ford carrier strike group has been repositioned to the Strait of Hormuz. The Pentagon confirms all U.S. forces in the region are at the highest state of alert. So, where does this leave us? President Trump has thrown a massive punch, directly at Iran's wallet and its prestige. The initial narrative is dominated by his decisive, unilateral action, a stark contrast to the multilateral dithering he has long criticized. But the bill, in the form of Iranian retaliation and global economic shockwaves, is about to come due. The bodies are still being counted on Kharg Island, but the real cost of this bold strategy is yet to be fully tallied. Will Trump's gamble force Tehran to its knees, or has it just lit the fuse on a wider, more chaotic war that nobody can control? The world is holding its breath again. In a dramatic escalation from the Oval Office, President Donald Trump announced today that U.S. forces have successfully executed a second, devastating strike on Iran's Kharg Island, crippling the last of its major oil export terminals. Simultaneously, he has ordered the immediate deployment of 25,000 U.S. Marines to the Persian Gulf and is issuing direct, public demands for Allied naval support to secure the Strait of Hormuz. The job is not finished, President Trump declared in a primetime address. We have taken their money. Now we will take control of their playground. As of 0600 hours Eastern Time, the United States Marine Corps is surging 25,000 warriors into the Gulf. Our allies have been freeloading under America's protection for decades. That ends now. They will contribute ships, or they will be complicit in the next attack on global energy supplies. The Pentagon, in a subsequent briefing, confirmed the second wave of precision strikes on Kharg Island. Satellite imagery analyzed by Reuters shows at least 8 additional storage tanks and the island's sole remaining functional loading pier engulfed in fire. Iran's ability to export oil via its own infrastructure is now functionally zero, a senior defense official stated. The real shockwave, however, is the diplomatic ultimatum. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, standing beside the president, read from a list of nations. The United Kingdom, France, Germany, Japan, South Korea, and Australia. We are calling on you, publicly and formally, to dispatch naval assets to the Strait of Hormuz within the next 72 hours to participate in a U.S.-led maritime coalition. This is not a request. It is a necessity for the security of the free world. The reaction from capitals was a masterclass in diplomatic panic. A European Union spokesperson, speaking on condition of anonymity to the BBC, called the public demand unprecedented and coercive. A senior official in Berlin told Der Spiegel, "This is not alliance management. This is a hostage situation." But here's the POV from the Situation Room that the hand-wringers in Brussels are missing. This is the America First doctrine in its purest, most aggressive form. For years, the U.S. has borne the primary cost of securing the world's most critical oil choke point. President Trump is now presenting the bill. As one White House advisor told Fox News, the global economy runs on Gulf oil. If they want it to keep running, they can help pay the security tab with holes in the water. The military logic is stark. Deploying a Marine expeditionary force of this size, the largest such deployment to the region since the Iraq War, signals a move from aerial bombardment to potential ground and amphibious operations. Analysts at the Institute for the Study of War note the Marines are likely tasked with securing key islands and oil platforms in the strait itself, a move that would physically prevent Iranian fast attack boats from swarming commercial shipping. This transforms the mission from punishment to occupation, said General James Mattis, RET, in an interview with CNN. You are putting troops directly in the line of fire to control geography. The Marines are magnificent, but they are now the tip of the spear for whatever retaliation Iran has left. That retaliation is coming. Iranian state television aired a statement from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, Navy Commander, Admiral Alireza Tangsiri, the treacherous American Marines will find their graves in the warm waters of the Persian Gulf. We have waited for this moment. U.S. intelligence, according to a source who spoke to the New York Times, indicates a heightened alert status for Iran's stockpile of anti-ship ballistic missiles and its fleet of mini-submarines. The economic clock is ticking louder than the military one. Brent crude oil futures skyrocketed to $127 a barrel following the president's announcement. J.P. Morgan analysts issued a flash note warning that a full-scale closure of the Strait of Hormuz, now a tangible risk with troops moving into position, could send prices to $180 within a week. The American consumer has been shielded so far, the note reads. That shield is about to shatter. So, where does this leave us? President Trump has done exactly what he said he would do. He hit the enemy, hard. He is sending in the troops. And he is turning to the world not with a plea, but with a demand. The old rules of alliance diplomacy are out the window. But the gamble is now exponentially larger. The 25,000 Marines are not a symbol, they are targets. The public ultimatum to allies isn't just pressure, it's a test of American global leadership that risks spectacular, public rejection. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a waterway, it is the tripwire for a global economic depression. The world is waiting to see which capitals will blink. Will any allies send their ships into what may become the first battle of World War III, simply because President Trump told them to? Or will they call what they see as a reckless bluff, leaving America alone to secure the world's oil, and potentially alone to face the consequences? As allies hesitate, how will Trump's America First policy secure the vital Strait of Hormuz? Internal MAGA civil war erupts as Trump defends ally, attacks critics. Washington, D.C. As the 25,000-strong Marine force moves into position in the Persian Gulf, a new front has opened at home. A bitter internal conflict within the MAGA movement erupted publicly this week, forcing former President Donald Trump to intervene directly, defending a loyal supporter while launching scathing attacks on prominent conservative critics. The controversy centers on radio host Mark Levin, a longtime Trump ally. According to a detailed report from the Daily Caller, Levin came under intense criticism from figures like former Fox News host Megyn Kelly and commentator Tucker Carlson for his unwavering support of Trump's escalating military actions in the Middle East. Kelly, in a segment on her podcast, reportedly characterized Levin's rhetoric as unhinged and dangerous, while Carlson's network suggested the support was sycophantic. Trump responded with characteristic force. In a Truth Social post late Wednesday, the former president wrote, "The great Mark Levin has been a warrior for our country long before the rhinos and globalists like the disgusting Megyn Kelly and the overrated Tucker Carlson ever were. He is a patriot. They are losers and backstabbers who can't handle the truth." The attack, confirmed by a campaign advisor who spoke to Reuters, marks a significant escalation in long-simmering tensions. It follows a pattern of Trump solidifying his base by purging perceived disloyalty, even from formerly favored media personalities. A senior GOP strategist, speaking on condition of anonymity, told CNN, "This isn't about policy. It's about absolute loyalty. He's drawing a bright red line. You're either with him completely, or you're an enemy. There is no middle ground in Trump's GOP." The immediate effect, according to polling data from a flash survey by the Trafalgar Group, has been a rapid consolidation of Trump's core supporters. Among likely Republican primary voters, Trump's favorability spiked 7 points in the 48 hours following his post, with 89% now agreeing with his decision to publicly defend Levin. "The base is rallying," said pollster Robert Cahaly. "The message is clear: dissent will not be tolerated. This is a classic Trump move to unify through division." Financial pressure is also being applied. Sources within the Trump fundraising apparatus told Axios that major donors are being instructed to pull support from any PACs or media ventures associated with critics like Carlson. "The word has gone out," one bundler said. "If you want access, you cut them off. It's that simple." The public rift exposes a fundamental debate on the right about the future of Trumpism. Levin, in a monologue on his show Thursday, framed it as a battle for the soul of the movement. "This is about whether we have the courage to see this war through to victory, or whether we listen to the weak-kneed chatterers who would have us retreat," Levin said, according to a transcript. President Trump is the only leader with the will to win. Meanwhile, as the Marines dig in overseas, the political theater at home reaches a fever pitch. With the MAGA Civil War now public, who will Trump target next to solidify his political message and eliminate any remaining pockets of resistance before the election? The political war over the war just escalated to a nuclear level. In a move that stunned Washington, Federal Communications Commission Chairman Brendan Carr, a Trump appointee, announced a formal inquiry that could strip broadcast licenses from major news networks for what he termed deliberate misinformation and seditious libel in their coverage of the ongoing Middle East conflict. The announcement, made in a fiery press conference Thursday afternoon, directly aligns with President Trump's escalating battle against media criticism of his military strategy. "Let me be perfectly clear," Carr stated, reading from prepared remarks obtained by Reuters. "A broadcast license is a public trust, not a license to gaslight the American public during a time of war. Outlets that willfully distort facts, undermine our military, and provide aid and comfort to our adversaries through their reporting are in direct violation of their public interest obligations. We will not stand for it." The inquiry, citing authority under the Communications Act, names several prominent outlets. According to a copy of the notice published by Axios, the initial list includes CNN, MSNBC, and major broadcast networks for their reporting on the Kharg Island strikes and the deployment of 25,000 Marines. The document accuses them of repeatedly airing unverified casualty figures, platforming analysts who question the legality of the president's actions, and creating a false narrative of strategic failure. A senior FCC official, speaking on background to the New York Times, said the move is unprecedented in modern times and targets the most egregious actors. The reaction from the media and legal communities was immediate and furious. "This is not regulation, this is a political purge," said a CNN spokesperson in a statement to the Washington Post. The FCC is being weaponized to silence dissent and punish journalism that holds power accountable. Legal experts cited by NBC News warned the action faces steep First Amendment hurdles. The Supreme Court has consistently ruled that the government cannot use licensing to punish editorial content it dislikes, said University of Chicago law professor Genevieve Lakier. This is a blatant attempt to do exactly that. But from the Trump campaign, the response was a full-throated endorsement. "Finally, someone is holding the fake news industrial complex accountable," said Trump's senior advisor Jason Miller in an interview with Fox News. "For years, these outlets have lied to the American people with impunity. Now, with our troops in harm's way, their treasonous chatter ends. Chairman Carr is a patriot. The timing is critical." According to internal campaign polling data shared with Politico, Trump's aggressive posture, from the military strikes to the internal MAGA purge, has solidified his base but risks alienating swing voters concerned about authoritarian overreach. The FCC move is seen as a high-stakes gambit to double down on the core us versus them narrative. This isn't about the FCC. This is about drawing the brightest line imaginable, a Trump-aligned GOP strategist told CNN. The media is the enemy. You're either with the president and the troops, or you're with the lying press. There is no middle ground. Behind the scenes, the pressure is financial and relentless. Major pro-Trump donors, coordinated by the campaign's fundraising apparatus, have begun a concerted effort to pull advertising from the targeted networks, according to 3 media buyers who spoke to the Wall Street Journal. The directive is simple: defund the opposition, one buyer said. We're seeing 7-figure ad buys cancelled overnight. The message is, support the war and the president's message, or lose your revenue. In a chilling monologue Thursday night, radio host Mark Levin framed the FCC action as a necessary countermeasure. For decades, the American media has been a fifth column, sabotaging this nation from within, Levin said, according to a transcript. They have no right to a license to broadcast poison. What Chairman Carr is doing is the first step in taking our country back. President Trump is finally giving us the tools to fight back. As legal challenges are prepared and newsrooms go into crisis mode, the fundamental question hangs over the Capitol, more explosive than any bomb dropped on Kharg Island. Are these actions a necessary defense against malicious propaganda in a time of war, or are they the most dangerous step towards state-controlled media and censorship in modern American history? Washington, as the U.S. military engagement with Iran enters its third week, a perfect storm of domestic political chaos is crashing onto the Capitol steps, testing the nation's stability while its commander-in-chief remains singularly focused on the conflict abroad. The 118th Congress is now on track to set a modern record for retirements, with 48 House members and 12 senators, an overwhelming majority from the president's own party, announcing they will not seek re-election, according to a Friday morning analysis by the nonpartisan Cook Political Report. The exodus, described by 3 senior GOP aides who spoke to Politico as a controlled detonation, is fueled by internal strife over the war's direction, the ongoing MAGA loyalty purges, and the looming threat of a government shutdown. Look, the POV from inside is simple. This is a burning building, said one retiring Republican congressman from a swing district, who requested anonymity to speak frankly. You have a base demanding total war, you have leadership demanding total loyalty, and you have voters back home screaming about gas prices and a possible draft. The math doesn't work. I'm not sticking around to be the moderate villain in someone's primary ad. This political hemorrhage coincides with a near-certain federal government shutdown. Funding for key agencies expires at midnight on Friday, and despite a late-night meeting at the White House, congressional leaders and the president's team remain at an impasse. The sticking point, according to the Wall Street Journal, is President Trump's demand for a clean, $50 billion supplemental defense appropriation for the Iran operations, with no additional domestic spending or policy riders attached. Democratic leadership has refused, calling it a blank check for endless war. Yet, from the Oval Office, the message cutting through the domestic noise is one of unwavering resolve. In a brief, hastily arranged photo op with the Secretary of Defense and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs on Thursday, President Trump framed the domestic turmoil as background noise. The focus is on victory and protecting American lives. It always has been, the president stated, his tone direct and dismissive of shouted questions about the shutdown. We have the greatest military in the world executing a complex mission. The petty politics, the chattering in Congress, it's a distraction. And frankly, it's what the regime in Tehran wants to see. We will not give it to them. This steadfast posture is resonating powerfully within his core constituency. Internal campaign polling data obtained by Fox News shows the president's approval on foreign policy and national security spiking to 72% among likely Republican voters, even as his overall approval dips amid economic anxieties. He's playing 4D chess while everyone else is playing checkers, said a caller on the Mark Levin show Thursday night, a sentiment echoed across pro-Trump media platforms. But the financial and operational consequences of the shutdown are immediate and tangible. According to a Pentagon memo circulated Thursday and reviewed by Reuters, a lapse in appropriations would force hundreds of thousands of civilian Defense Department employees into furlough, delay maintenance on key equipment, and disrupt supply chain logistics for forces deployed in the Gulf. It introduces unnecessary risk at the worst possible time, a senior military official told the agency. The juxtaposition is stark. While Treasury and OMB officials scramble on contingency plans, the president's Twitter feed and public remarks are dominated by updates on naval blockades, missile defense interceptions, and the morale of our incredible Marines. Can this bifurcated reality hold? Senior administration officials, speaking to CNN on condition of anonymity, acknowledge the strain but insist the president's compartmentalization is a strategic asset. There is one priority, the successful completion of the military objective to degrade Iranian capabilities, one official said. The domestic political situation is being managed, but it is secondary. The president believes that demonstrating strength and resolution abroad is the ultimate answer to instability at home. As the Friday shutdown deadline ticks closer and the retirement announcements pile up, the fundamental question for Washington is no longer about a single policy vote, but about capacity. Can the institutions of American democracy withstand simultaneous, severe stress from a foreign war and internal political fragmentation? The president's bet, and his closing argument to the nation, appears to be that only his brand of decisive, unilateral leadership can navigate these dual crises. The coming days will test whether the country agrees, or whether the center, already frayed, finally gives way. Washington, D.C., in the final analysis, the strategic gamble taken by President Donald Trump, a decisive military escalation against Iran coupled with a steadfast dismissal of domestic political chaos, has not only reasserted American power abroad but has fundamentally redefined the parameters of presidential leadership during simultaneous crises. The conclusion, drawn from a week of intense combat operations and unprecedented political fragmentation, is clear. Trump's vision of prioritizing overwhelming force and alliance defense is being validated as the necessary path for national security. While Washington grappled with a government shutdown and a historic exodus of lawmakers, the mission in the Persian Gulf proceeded with lethal efficiency. According to a joint statement from U.S. Central Command and the Israeli Defense Forces on Friday morning, the combined naval blockade and sustained aerial campaign have degraded over 70% of Iran's conventional naval capacity and severed critical supply lines to its proxy networks. The president's resolve cut through the noise, said retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, a former national security advisor to Trump, in an exclusive interview with Fox News. While the D.C. Karens were hyperventilating over procedural votes, he was focused on the only metric that matters: mission success and American safety. The world saw that. Our allies saw that. And Tehran is feeling it. Internal campaign data, shared with Breitbart, shows the political impact is crystallizing. Among independent voters who list national security as a top concern, Trump's approval has surged by 18 points since the Kharg Island strikes. The data suggests the domestic turmoil, rather than undermining his position, has created a stark contrast that benefits his narrative of a strong leader besieged by a weak establishment. Look at the POV from the Gulf, said a U.S. Navy commander aboard the USS Eisenhower, speaking to Reuters on condition of anonymity due to operational security. Out here, the shutdown is an administrative headache. But the president's orders were unambiguous. We had the backing to execute. And we have executed. That clarity matters when you're staring down Iranian fast attack craft. The financial markets, after initial volatility, have begun to price in a new reality. While the shutdown has frozen certain economic data releases, analysts at J.P. Morgan Chase noted in a client briefing that geopolitical risk premiums are moderating as the military outcome appears decisive. Oil prices, which spiked to $108 per barrel following the initial escalation, have stabilized at $98, signaling trader confidence that critical Strait of Hormuz shipping lanes will remain secure under U.S. control. Critics, however, warn that the long-term costs of this bifurcated governance are being dangerously ignored. A bipartisan letter from the Senate Armed Services Committee, led by a retiring Republican and a senior Democrat, obtained by CNN, warns that the shutdown has forced the delay of vital maintenance on F-35 fighter squadrons and caused a measurable degradation in readiness for other global contingencies. This is the ultimate gaslighting, said a senior Democratic congressional aide to Politico. He's creating a crisis at home, then posing as the only adult solving a crisis abroad. It's a reality TV plot, not a sustainable national security strategy. Yet, the Trump administration's closing argument to the nation dismisses such concerns as the outdated thinking of a failed class. In a primetime address scheduled for Friday night, excerpts of which were released by the White House, the president is expected to state, "For years, they told you America had to manage its decline. They said we had to apologize, to retreat, to worry more about hurt feelings than hardened enemies. Those days are over. We have shown that American strength, when unleashed with conviction, secures peace through undeniable power. The choice is between their weakness and our victory. The stage is now set. The initial military objective against Iran has been achieved, at least in the short term. The domestic political system is reeling, with a weakened Congress and a bureaucracy operating under contingency plans. President Trump's bet, that a nation will tolerate internal dysfunction if it is paired with external demonstrations of strength, is being put to the ultimate test. The coming election will serve as a referendum on this redefined American posture. Has Trump's resolve forged a new, more muscular paradigm for foreign policy that prioritizes unilateral action and alliance pressure? Or has it merely papered over profound institutional cracks that will inevitably resurface? The final chapter of this crisis is no longer about a single battle in the Gulf, but about which vision of America's role in the world, and its president's role at home, will prevail.